size and strength. Took it out of its primitive world and turned it loose in ours.
Then expect something that's fiercer, more cruel and deadly than anything that ever walked the earth.
Arnold once more returned to the forbidding landscape of the desert. The aliens and Gillman of his previous films were replaced by a giant hairy spider that marauds the countryside, killing cattle and people alike, until it is blown sky high by a military fighter plane piloted by a young actor named Clint Eastwood. But the real star is the title character, a truly mega tarantula calculated to give arachnophobes everywhere a chill or two, as it keeps popping out of nowhere like the shark in Jaws.
That was really kind of fun, because when you consider a little animal that's about that big, and then you put it up on a mountain, and it becomes, you know, 300 feet tall, and you get out in the desert, and Mara Corday and I, you know, were out there, and we had to imagine that.
I remember Jack saying, you know, how they got them to, the tarantula wranglers, you know, they have little air jets, you know, they get them to go this way, where they appeal to a dog with some food or a treat. They do this with air things.
I bugged my father, who was a golf pro and would work all day, like get up real early and come home real late. And I bugged him, he had to take me to this movie on Thursday or Wednesday, because otherwise I wouldn't get to see it. And he, out of the goodness of his heart, he agreed to accompany me to the theater, the Colony Theater in Livingston, New Jersey, to see Tarantula. And the movie was on for about 20 minutes, and I was so scared that I couldn't watch the picture. And I ended up pacing in the lobby. And I remember the manager pointing me out and like going to the assistant manager, look at this kid, he can't take it. And all I can think of now is this image of my father sitting alone in this theater watching this giant spider movie, wondering, where is this kid?
The sketchbooks for Tarantula, which was a shot-by-shot description on how he's going to set up a given shot. Such and such will be processed, and this will be miniature, and we'll do a split screen here, this will be live action, and so on. He seemed far more oriented toward dealing with character and script than he did the technical end of it, but he was no slouch when it came to the technical end of it either.
Although he received no screen credit for his work, Jack Arnold also directed a number of key scenes for This Island Earth, one of Universal's best science fiction thrillers of the 50s, and the studio's first such film in color.
A journey that no Earth people have ever undertaken before.
Universal International presents the most startling, the most imaginative and suspenseful science fiction drama ever brought to the screen. You'll marvel at the superior intelligence that unleashes its deadly ray. Or can kidnap an airplane in flight.
They're pulling us up.
2 years in the making at a cost of millions of dollars, this spectacular story of a doomed planet ravaged by ecological disaster and constant warfare lacked one classic Universal ingredient: a monster. Jack Arnold, the studio's monster expert, was again called in to inject some last-minute terrors into the expensive but monsterless film. Arnold obliged with an exotic rampaging mutant called the Metaluna monster.
Couldn't make him leave it out. They wanted to have a monster. And there was no way I could talk about the goddamn monster. And he found out it looked like the hands were two lobsters. But the rest of it was quite interesting, I thought.
Giant galactic civilization and federations of various alien races all getting together and deciding what to do about Earth. Well, that was the end of This Island Earth, the novel. And that's how they originally, apparently, intended to conclude the picture. But somebody said, well, that's not very dramatic. There's no monster.
Jack Arnold topped his uncredited work on This Island Earth with the film he will always be remembered for.
The incredible, shrinking man.
The film was a pet project. It contains the themes of loss of identity and intolerance of It Came from Outer Space, and the subtext of alienation and loneliness of his two creature films. Even Arnold's giant tarantula makes a repeat bow.
The shrinking man, Scott Carey, was in the basement, and there was this constant drip of a fountain, and these drops kept dropping down, which is fairly easy, but you can't miniaturize water, and you can't make it any bigger. Water is going to stay the same no matter how you shoot it. They scrounged their brains trying to figure out how they were going to do this, because they had to see these water drops spatter down. Somebody came up with, I think it was Arnold, they recalled that in their misspent youth, they used to drop water-filled condoms off the top of buildings at people down below. And he went, so they ordered about 100 gross of condoms, filled them up with water, and put them on a treadmill. They just dropped them off, bump, bump, bump. And that's what you see. And it was perfect. They held their shape, this teardrop shape, until they splattered and bump. So, I mean, technically, the gag worked beautifully.
You are getting smaller. There's no medical precedent for what's happening to you. I simply know that you're getting smaller.
I want you to stop thinking about us, our marriage. Some awful things might happen.
As long as you've got this wedding ring on, you've got me.
The film's protagonist, Scott Carey, is an average middle-class guy whose life is forever changed when he is enveloped by a peculiar mist that causes him to shrink to the size of a doll, then to nothingness. Thanks to the exceptional trick photography and process work of Clifford Stein and the extraordinary oversized sets designed by Charles Baker, Fred Noth, and Jack Tate, the world of Scott Carey is the most exotic locale Arnold ever created. It is also the most menacing. Reduced to the size of the tiniest insect, Scott Carey finds himself at the mercy of everything. But he refuses to give up. To God, there is no zero, he says, musing on his relationship to the universe. I still exist. That we are still speculating on the film's meaning is a testament to the incredible shrinking man's enduring status as a science fiction classic.
And Arnold told me later, after they wrapped and after the accountants were going over the final budget, one of these accountants pointed out, questioned, why did you need 100 gross of condoms? And Arnold said, well, I mean, the crew was terrific, and afterward we just had one big party.
Jack was very intense while he was doing that. You know, I think it was one of the movies that he wanted to be sure worked, and it wasn't easy to make that work. And it was very innovative, was it not, at the time?
The ending of that film is one of the great cosmic, you know, I think it's made in some ways even more cosmic than 2001. You know, the idea that, you know, he says something like from the very small to the very great, you know, it's all really the same. And he finds his place in the midst of all of this, you know, and is happy, which is a wonderful, you know, message.
I wrote a sequel to it. The producer wanted a sequel. I wrote a whole script called, he called it The Fantastic Little Girl. You know, he loved big adjectives. And I don't know why they didn't, because it made a lot of money.
Of his films, Jack Arnold, I think, liked The Incredible Shrinking Man best, but he, in a way, preferred talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think it was because I think he was closer to the original story for Creature than he was for The Shrinking Man, since that did come from a novel.
And I realized, you know, much too late in the day, what a wonderful visual job he did on The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Jack Arnold's artistry reached its zenith with The Incredible Shrinking Man, although he made 2 more Fear films after it.
I say that if you were injected with this, you'd revert to a primitive anthropoid, physically as well as mentally.
Only one scientist dared investigate the incredible phenomena. How a pet dog reverted to an antediluvian wolf.
Look at those teeth. That dog is a throwback.
How a simple dragonfly had become a winged monster of a species extinct for millions of years. Now, before your very eyes, see a man revert to a half-human anthropoid from the dawn of creation. A monster leaving behind a trail of death and destruction.
Oh, it's impossible. Nobody's got a footprint like that. I'll rest when I find the killer.
That's not your responsibility. That belongs to the police.
Madeline, I know what I'm doing.
Even he did not suspect the incredible truth. Neither did the police, nor the girl coming to keep a lover's rendezvous.
Then he abandoned the genre altogether. The reason why is unclear. Perhaps he felt there was no way he was ever going to top The Incredible Shrinking Man. Or maybe because the film was such a hit and made so much money, Universal decided he was ready for more important projects. If so, he never got them.
He liked doing science fiction. He was not insane about it, you know. But he liked the ones that dealt with people as opposed to machinery. He was very much opposed to some of the latter-day science fiction. Not opposed, but he felt that it was all hardware as opposed to people's feeling and how they felt.
He stopped making the movies when the budget started getting small. And I think that he realized, look, I can't make low-budget science fiction movies. They've got to have some money behind them.
In later years, Jack Arnold turned his attention to the small screen, TV, where he had the biggest success of his career, Gilligan's Island, a show he produced and sometimes directed. There was a lagoon in the show, but unfortunately for us, there was no creature in it.
Do you know he directed several episodes of science fiction theater? He did, including the one that Tarantula is a remake of. You watch those and you can see traces, even though he shot those, I imagine, in 5 days. You can see traces of Arnold's style in even these science fiction theaters that he cranked out real fast.
Jack was just the soul of kindness, just a wonderful guy who loved being in the movies, loved his work, and seemed to have a particular affinity for the science fiction.